A very warm welcome to our distinguished guests and esteemed members of the Lifecycle Initiative to the 7th General Assembly. We appreciate your presence and commitment to advancing sustainable practices through lifecycle thinking. If we can go to next slide. Lifecycle thinking, as you know, it supports sustainable choices in government and business decision-making, and it is the very essence of our lifecycle initiative. Today, we are going to use this opportunity to update our members on the progress and plans from the past year, further supporting this crucial transition. Moving forward, a special thank you to our funding partners whose support enables us to drive the mission of the Lifecycle Initiative forward. Their contributions are instrumental in advancing our work. Without further ado, I would now like to invite Llorenç Milà, Canals, Head of Lifecycle Initiative, for his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Archana, and welcome everyone. And Archana, I'm not sure if you introduce yourself enough, but Archana, as you all know, is coordinating the work of the Lifecycle Initiative, and well, you will all be hearing from her and have heard from her a lot in the last few months. But again, just thank you everyone for making the time to participate in today's event. Feel very, very welcome. Today, in this 7th already General Assembly of the Lifecycle Initiative, a practice that we started 7 years ago, we will be sharing some updates on the progress. We're hoping to enhance your engagement in the initiative's activities. And of course, we will get on with the business of the elections to 3 new steering committee representatives. So just a few words to say that in the last year, we've had important achievements and milestones. We will be hearing much more details about this today, but let me highlight a couple. On the one hand, the initiative strengthened focused on the high impact areas. That's part of the strategy that we're currently developing. So we've been strengthening the work on the textiles, plastics, and the buildings and construction, as well as mining area. This last one is just starting, but already there. So that's kind of the new part where the initiative is becoming much more active. But we've also been delivering important achievements in the initiative core assets, the bread and butter of our work, like the Sustainable Consumption and Production Hotspot Analysis tool, the SCP-HAT, which is being used in many countries to review their nationally determined contributions in a joint effort between UNEP, the UNFCCC, and the UNDP. Actually, with these 3 institutions, a new toolkit to help countries improve their NDCs was presented in the Africa Climate Summit just a couple of weeks ago. Work as well in the GLAM, the life cycle impact assessment method, which is now under finalization. We've had a really, really good and impactful consensus workshop last May, and we're hoping to release by mid next year the global method. So that will be a huge new milestone for the life cycle initiative. In GLAD, in terms of LCIA data, we're advancing in key elements like the governance for a common nomenclature system. And we have also been seeing landmark publications in Marilka, but this is just to name a few. You're going to hear much more in the next in the next couple of hours and a half. Of course, because of the importance of capacity building and creating the enabling conditions, which is a key effort as well of the Life Cycle Initiative, these enabling conditions, which are important to facilitate the effective implementation of life cycle approaches, we have reinitiated and push quite a lot on the work with networks and partnerships in order to showcase the role in strengthening capacity and fostering collaboration for sustainable consumption and production. And I'm glad to see that many of you participated, for instance, in the Life Cycle Network event for Middle East and North Africa that took place as well last month. So I'm hoping to see many more of these events also in the coming year, and of course, all of you engaging strongly in these events as usual. And well, just to finalize these introductory remarks, let me thank you once more, our funding partners, as Archana was saying, who have been making the work of the initiative possible for over 20 years. And just a reminder that if you want your institution to be in the illustrious list of the funding partners that you've seen just before, please do get in touch. But now I'm really pleased to introduce the Director of the Industry and Economy Division of UNEP, Dr. Sheila Aggarwal-Kahn, who will provide us with this keynote and opening keynote on the importance of life cycle approaches in driving sustainability in high impact sectors. So Sheila, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Llorenç. So welcome everyone to this General Assembly. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And we're seeing a strong presence of many of you, from our institutional members to our individual members, our funding partners. Without you, we would have not been able to have the kind of impact that the Life Cycle Initiative has had to date. So as you know better than I, that life cycle analysis is the basis for all of our sound decision-making. It's, as you've seen, the sustainable consumption and production work has gone to a different height. It has been recognized in the General Assembly of its importance for countries. Circular economy as an approach has also taken off and is building momentum in many key areas. So the life cycle analysis is key in this process, both in terms of helping us look at the key drivers of impact, identifying priorities, and also helping us look at the economic, environment, and social positives and negatives that can be in place, and what kind of trade-offs we need to be looking at. So I just came last week from the meetings in Bonn, some of you may have followed, where a global chemicals framework was approved by the different stakeholders, including governments. It's a multi-stakeholder process which looks at chemical pollution and basically looking at different sectors, from textiles, buildings and construction, electronics, and agriculture, and looking to see how across the life cycle pollution can be reduced. Of course, alternatives was a big issue and a big point of debate. Lots of stakeholders, some very positive, some countries putting a lot of investment into green chemicals markets, and others more wary about what are really the costs and benefits of alternatives. We're also seeing in the plastic space. So in plastics, as you know, there's a global negotiation process underway. The next meeting of parties to be, so member states and stakeholders will meet in Nairobi in November as the next sequence of meetings to take place, with the plan that there would be a global plastics treaty adopted by end of next year, if all goes well. Again, like as in the chemicals debates, a lot of debate is on the alternatives, whether they're feasible, whether they're affordable, whether they will have environment and social impacts. Will they bring more benefits than costs? Who will pay the price if alternatives come in? Can they be scaled? We've seen lots of alternatives being put forward, but not necessarily those that will come to scale. So it would be very interesting to see, as you further the work on the life cycle analysis, how does this feature in the whole scheme of things? In the plastic space, bioplastics has got a lot of attention. Some see it as greenwashing, others see it as an opportunity. And again, a space for the life cycle analysis to play its part in giving us the science that can help the negotiators think about the approach here. Recently, we published a report called Turning Off the Tap. You see it in my background, where we say the first issue, of course, is to reduce the scale of the problem and the amount of production that's happening, especially in terms of problematic and unnecessary plastics, but then to look at 3 market shifts. And one of the key market shifts is looking at alternatives. Whether this will get the kind of traction that is needed in the plastics negotiation process is yet to be seen. And as I mentioned, there are lots of questions, some seeing it as the bandwagon to join on and put forward any kind of alternative, which may or may not have other impacts, and others just completely wary of this space. So I think the life cycle analysis work is going to be key in coming into the debates in the plastics negotiation process. I was recently at the African Ministerial Environment Forum conference, where some member states said, well, you know, what would be very interesting is you have your life cycle analysis, but all your analysis comes at a global level. We want to see whether the alternatives are available locally, What will they replace? How will they be marketed? Are they affordable? Are they accessible? What will it mean for different sectors of society at different income levels? And I think some of your questions as you think through and refine your work program is to think, how will this make sense locally? Because at the end of the day, countries are coming to look to seeing what it will mean for their own economies. Textiles, another area where you've already started work on. You may recall the roadmap that was recently launched for sustainable textiles, where key issues that are coming forward are what fibers are more sustainable. How do the textile space move from its ambition to net zero, which is already happening in many textile companies, to also looking at its pollution footprint. A study is coming out this year and you will have a chance to look at it, but we need to answer questions on recyclability versus durability, repairability, which types of fibers, and so many important questions for the life cycle analysis. And then lastly, another key sector where the life cycle analysis is key is in buildings and construction. As you know, the sector has 37% of energy and process-related carbon dioxide emissions, and 34% of energy demand globally. So a real space to look at. We see raw materials growing to double by 2060. And there is a global alliance for buildings and construction. Some of you are engaged in that. A buildings breakthrough is supposed to be announced with member states pledging to it, as well as other stakeholders at the next climate COP. And then a buildings forum will take place in Paris, a global forum, to push this momentum forward. But key for the life cycle analysis to inject its thoughts and its analysis is at the design stage. What kind of alternatives? How do you design for disassembly so that reuse can happen? So many similar questions that we see in plastics, in textiles, in the chemicals sector in general will apply here. So in short, I wanted to just say thank you to the steering committee, to our funding partners, to our members. Your role is so critical in so many of these sectors that are creating so many impacts, both in terms of greenhouse gases, but also the nature and pollution impacts, and that a life cycle analysis approach will be key in having a more sustainable economy in place. So I look forward to seeing how we will continue this engagement with you and how you will engage in some of these political processes, starting with the Plastics INC coming forward in November. Good luck with your discussions today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Apologies, Archana, I came in first. But thanks again for making time, particularly in your super busy schedule, to share this inspiring opening keynote. We'll now let you go. We know that you've got many meetings, but of course you're welcome to stay for as long as you want. And I will now just hand over the mic to Kakuko Nagatani-Yoshida, our UNEP colleague as well, based in Nairobi, who is the Chemicals and Pollution Action Coordinator, as well as acting as the coordinator for the Finance and Economic Transformation Program. And Kakuko will be moderating the first panel session. So thank you very much also for making your time and being here. And now, Kakuko, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Llorenç and Archana. I'm very, very happy to be the moderator of this first exciting session of the 7th General Assembly of the Life Cycle Initiative. I trust that my sound is good, and I did check my video as well, so I hope you are seeing my face. Like Sheila, I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, at the headquarters of United Nations Environment Program. Now, as you heard from Llorenç introducing me, I'm Pollution and Chemical Subprogram Coordinator of UNEP, and also the Finance Economic Transformation Subprogram of UNEP. So combining the two roles, this is a perfect session and the audience I should be talking to. So I'm extremely happy and honored to be here. Now, as a session one, we have an objective, which is very nicely captured in the title of the session, which is accelerating the shift to sustainable consumption production. empowering decision-making with life cycle approaches. I think in this a bit, long title, the key word is accelerating. Accelerating because I think as, with all the learning about sustainable development, the role of the government, private sector, and the civil society as a whole, I think as humanity, we collectively are approaching on the right track. The problem comes, we are not going fast enough. So this is an issue of speed. I think the many of us being in a situation in a car, and you are running with, let's say, 60 kilometer per hour or 80 kilometer per hour, but then you are in the car lane that next to it also another car, another lane, the car is running parallel. And when you look to the other car next to you, you don't feel it that you are going by the speed of 60 kilometer per hour because other car is going at the same speed. And if they're going faster than you, then you feel that your car is regressing. I think that's exactly what's happening with the people like all of us interested in achieving sustainable development goal. And our particular tool is this life cycle approach to our sustainable consumption production. But because we are not going fast enough and other forces that's really pushing us to the edge of planetary crisis as we know it, which are the climate change, the biodiversity loss, and really out of control pollution, those forces are moving much faster. So with the three panelists we have for this session, we would like to learn from their experience. Can we go faster so that we win this race for sustainable development? Now, the true to the overall concept of life cycle initiative, we have a representative each from the government, science and civil society, and also we have representatives from business sector. Now, just quickly on the format that we will be using for this session, we don't want to have 15 minutes each there talking using the 20 PowerPoint presentation. We want the dialogue. We want to hear their own voice and experience in the nitty-gritty. So what we're going to do is that we will ask each panelist to first say 2 minutes remark. And I'm Japanese, by the way, so I'm watching very closely my clock on my computer. So 2 minutes each for elevator pitch coming from each one of them, talking about their experience relevant to the topic of this session. After that, I have 1 or 2 guiding questions for them to consider responding. And I'll go first with Małgorzata Gołębiewska from the government, representing government. Then we will go to Tiago Braga, representing science and civil society. And then we will conclude with James Joyce, representing Unilever business sector. After that, hopefully we still have time for each one of them to give a final remark and even reflection on what they have heard also as well from other panelists. And hopefully we will be able to finish all this within next 35 minutes or so. Okay, with that, I would like to first introduce the first speaker and the panelist. She is Miss Małgorzata Gołębiewska. Sorry, I'm not pronouncing your name perfectly, but apologies for my Japanese accent. She is the team leader, environment footprint in the European Commission. And she is the expert on the sustainability and a strong advocate for the sustainability life cycle approach to our consumption and production. And also she's known as a Green Deal expert. So Małgorzata, welcome to you. And please let us know what will be your initial remarks starting this session. Over to you, Małgorzata.
Thank you very much, Kakuko. Thank you for having me here, for the invitation, and well, good morning, afternoon, or good evening to all the participants. We are, of course, very pleased to be here today. The European Commission is very much in line with what we have just heard, the need to accelerate sustainability and our path towards sustainability, and the need to move forward more quickly to achieve our goals. For this reason, back in 2020, the European Commission put forward a new program for Europe, the European Green Deal, to tackle a triple planetary crisis of climate change, decline of nature and pollution. And the key objective of the plan has been the objective of achieving climate neutrality of EU economy by 2050, and ensuring that the European economy becomes circular and free of pollution. And of course, an important element of that plan was sustainable consumption and production, which was identified as a cornerstone of the European Green Deal. So what does it mean? It means that we are aiming at ensuring that sustainable products become a norm rather than an exception. And for this reason, we have seen in the European policy an important shift in approach towards product policy, shifting away from focus on end-of-life stages, for example, or even consumption stages, more towards the eco-design, where most of the environmental impacts can be addressed and minimized where possible already from the outset. So here we proposed 2 years ago a very important proposal for a breakthrough eco-design for sustainable product regulation, which is a very important step in this journey. And life cycle assessment plays a central role in this piece of puzzle. So in the policy landscape, we are finally moving away from voluntary application of LCIA, such as in the EU Ecolabel, for example, towards mandatory instruments. And we're moving away from simple identification of hotspots towards quantification of impacts and setting classes or thresholds of sustainability. And we have seen that in the eco-design regulation, but also when it comes to carbon footprint, for example, in particular in the specific sector legislation for priority products, such as, for example, batteries or photovoltaic panels, so important products to facilitate our transition. But the European Green Deal also put the consumer policy and the need to empower consumers to make informed choices also as a cornerstone. They play an active role in the ecological transition, and that's why we need to actually empower them to take the right decisions. So the Commission put forward also a proposal to put the life cycle perspective again in the center of the fight against greenwashing. We are proposing new laws to ensure that companies making environmental claims about the products, services, or organizations, that they substantiate these claims. So they provide evidence behind the claims that are based on scientifically robust methodologies and also taking into account the life cycle approach, so that we do not mislead consumers into thinking that individual elements within the life cycle are important, while in the end, it's actually, of course, the cumulative effect of them. And then finally, efforts have been made to ensure that we send long-term signals to finance the green transition, to direct financial and capital flows to green investment, and to avoid stranded assets. And at the EU level, we adopted the taxonomy for classifying environmentally sustainable activities, and to make sustainability further embedded into corporate governance framework, to really make companies and financial institutions increase their disclosure on climate and environmental data, so that investors are fully informed about the sustainability of their investments. So we are really proud that we have really made the life cycle the cornerstone of the European Green Deal and EU policy. And well, these are the proposals on the table, and we're looking forward, of course, to seeing how they work in practice once adopted and implemented. Thank you.
Excellent, Małgorzata. What an exciting deal, Green Deal. And we really hope that the European Union will really manage to implement that successfully as planned. So then, because it's such an exciting initiative, I have a first question related to what motivated the European agenda really to pursue this? Because it sounds so comprehensive. I'm pretty sure that must be, there must have been some sort of major reason or issue or risk that you have seen to really, as a European a group of community to decide this have to be done now. What were reason behind it? Was there anything particularly pressing that will require that development and now going forward with implementation?
Well, clearly the climate emergency has been that pressing element. I mean, as the EU, we've been really pushing the sustainability agenda also at the global level for years now, for over 2 decades. But clearly, we have collectively come to a conclusion, also together with the voters in the European elections, that there is time to act. There is time to act. We are facing triple planetary crisis. We're not on the trajectory to meet our objectives and also the Paris Agreement. And the momentum was there back in 2020 to really push that sustainability agenda in a more comprehensive manner. So I think it was really based on the experience, years of discussions, and also obviously observations of where we are heading as globally when it comes to climate emergency.
Okay, I see that. Yes, the changing climate, and I'm in this business of sustainable development almost 30 years, counting from my first serious job. And that time I remember the climate change was something that, okay, in future, sometime it will come. But I think very few people truly felt this is the crisis that will be upon us while we are alive. And then we also have to already start addressing the impact, whether it's a mitigation or adaptation measures. So yes, I agree that it's one of the pressing issue. Then another thing I want to ask, based on your experience with Green Deal and any other relevant initiative, is that it seems like for the Green Deal to succeed, maybe even at the formulation of actual Green Deal before implementation, the bringing different parts of society, almost like whole society approach is so important. And almost like it's difficult, but without it, you will not be able to succeed. So may I ask, based on your experience creating Green Deal, bringing all this variety of stakeholders together to sort of buy into this Green Deal as a good thing to do you have any lesson learned or experience recommendation that you can share with today's audience?
Thank you very much. This is a really, really interesting and important remark that you have just made. It is clear that we need transformative policies that really will touch upon any sector of the economy and practically all aspects of our lives. And that's why from the outset, when we presented the European Green Deal, we said we have to take it together with different parts of societies and also with our, of course, partners from third countries. And one of the key slogans behind the program that we are also really pushing forward within the EU is that the transformation has to be fair. We cannot leave anyone behind. If we do that, then we will not achieve our objectives. So that's why with the European Green Deal, we pushed very strongly also for the right funding instruments and for the right assessments to ensure that we are fully aware of the implications of our policies and that we cover for the negative impacts on some social groups to really keep them on board. And for example, moving away from fossil fuels would mean that we have to support mining regions within the EU so that those social groups see that they can benefit from the transition and not only be losers within that transition. And that's also the case for member states within the EU, really ensuring that we have more equitable treatment, that every single member state, every single European economy can actually see the benefits of the transition, not only costs and of course, the problems associated with it. So the social dialogue is very important. I'm not saying that we are fully successful, This is a very difficult road ahead, and it takes time. We are also facing other global challenges like the war in Ukraine, for example, that of course complicates matters further, but that also explains why we do have to move on that path that we have set for ourselves to ensure that we also have a peaceful transition.
Thank you. Great. Now, I still have a few more minutes allocated for your session. I'm very curious. So I will ask you a question that it's not in the list of the questions that you may have seen earlier, but I'm personally very curious. And as a government, this is the issue that always the people face. So as you mentioned, there are many crises, you know, in the environmental community or sustainable development community. We often talk about climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. But if you say crisis, we have so many other crises. So how, as a government, individual or collectively, can decision maker go about to securing resources necessary to implement great initiative like Green Deal that you have? Any tip?
Well, I think it's such a big question. It's probably very humbling to to give any tips to the government. I think we are constantly faced with this balancing act between different objectives. Of course, we should take decisions based on science, no doubt about it. We need scientifically sound methods to be able to assess, you know, what will be the impacts of our choices and policy options that we go for. At the same time, we cannot forget about the other pillars of the sustainability, the economic sustainability and also social one. So we are constantly balancing between these three areas, trying to ensure that we find the right balance that will not only help us to achieve our targets, but will also ensure that we have the support of the society and the businesses to deliver on that change. And I think this is the key challenge for any government. And that balancing act is always difficult, and sometimes you will have one area prevailing. If you have to deal with an emergency, we had COVID in the meantime, which then led to a lot of stress. On one hand, it happened that we actually reduced our emissions at the economy level. On the other hand, we had to really employ a lot of policies to support the society and different sectors of the economy. And at the same time, we possibly generated more waste. So you constantly have to adjust to all these short-term pressures while keeping an eye on the long-term perspective, so that even if we deviate slightly from the path we have set ourselves, we remain on the general path towards the objective. I think this is key, constant involvement with the stakeholders, really ensuring that we hear different voices from across the board is extremely important to keep people engaged, to keep businesses engaged, so that the governments can indeed reach the objectives.
Thank you very much, Małgorzata. I think the closing statement that you made is so important in the sustainable development work, but also environmental conservation or governance overall. You know, people have to see relevance to what they do or what they are mandated to do, and somehow, you know, see the benefits, maybe not immediate, but people have to buy in the agenda and feel that's their agenda to contribute meaningfully. So thank you very much, Małgorzata, for your beautiful contribution so far to this session. And please stay on. I will move to the second speaker, but you will have again toward the end of the session, opportunity to make a closing remark. Okay, thank you. There was a Małgorzata Gołębiewska, team leader, DG Environment of European Commission. Now, moving on to the next speaker, we are also moving to the next different sector and representative from the science and civil society. I have a pleasure of introducing you to Mr. Tiago Braga. He is a director of Instituto Brasileiro de Informação e Ciência e Tecnologia. Sorry, Tiago, have given a bit of a Spanish spin to it because I spent about 10 years in Mexico and Panama. So I hope you forgive me for Spanish accented Portuguese title of your institution, but it's maybe the other people will know your institution by the name of IBICT. But maybe you will tell us exactly how it should be pronounced. So Tiago, floor is yours, and for your first 2 to 3 minutes elevator pitch. Over to you, Tiago.
Thank you, Kakuko, and thank you for this Spanish-Portuguese introduction. It was perfect. So my name is Tiago Braga, and I work at IBICT. IBICT is one research institution focused on providing information infrastructure to foster technological and scientific development. And we are 70 years old now. And one thing that we have in context right now, it's because we are in the age of data and information, but there is a significant challenge in using this knowledge that we create as a society to promote a sustainable consumption and production environment. So we understand that it's necessary to employ resources that ensure the proper decision-making and that highlight the importance of considering the scientific results when making these decisions. We understand that LCIA can support this sustainable consumption and production by providing reliable information as it uses a valid scientific method to collect and to produce data regarding the impact of products and services. One other very important point is that LCIA can LCIA make things transparent. Also have this one LCIA stud, we can highlight how things are produced and how things are impacting our environment. And with that, LCIA can help decision making, and also can support can be used to avoid greenwashing. And this is important because we faced during the last years a lot of people trying to go against science, against the knowledge that our society has developing during the years, and when we use LCIA, when we use these scientific methods to discuss this sustainable consumption and production, we are doing our best to let our society know that there's a way, and there's good people trying to understand how to do that, and that we can have this decision-making process based on reliable information. And I'm not sure if I have more time to discuss.
Well, thank you. That was good for the introductory remarks. So then, are you ready to move to maybe a few questions that would allow audience to learn a little bit more about your experience in IBICT? Now I know how to pronounce your organization's name. With that, can we go ahead? All right, great. So I think the way that Małgorzata finished her statements, it was excellent segue to your what you have said and what is your organization's goal, the importance of science. So the information, whatever we do, it doesn't matter which part of the society, you know, we are making decision and act on it, but based on the science and information. I think having the solid information to design our work and also monitor the progress and impact of what we do is extremely important in advancing faster on this topic of sustainable consumption production with the life cycle assessment and approach. But often when we talk to different countries as UN official, you know, we have opportunity to interact with so many different type of different countries and governments in a very different context. So I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that have heard, okay, life cycle approach, this eco design, all these things are great, but these are the things that can be only done in developed countries or country with resources. You know, they have means to do it. So in your experience, personal experience, or the IBICT work, how do we go about, you know, encouraging South-South cooperation, South-North collaboration, North-South collaboration, and really overcome the regional or national context that may not put necessarily the life cycle approach as a priority? Do you have any advice?
Oh, thank you for raising up this. Yes, indeed, life cycle. It's not easy to start because it's complex, and when you see this technique at the first moment, you say, "Oh my God, it's complex." But the question is, you don't have to deal with everything at the same time. You have to start. And we have good points where we can focus at the very beginning. I mean, we have been working with LCIA since 2003, and it was a very hard path until now. But during this path, we understood that there were some possibilities. One thing that it's very important is to join this collaborative environment. So LCIA provides a context where we can share our experience and we can learn from other experience. And the Life Cycle Initiative is doing great on that. It's important to have some capacity building. So nowadays we have a lot of e-learn courses related to LCIA, a lot of good YouTube videos, and also we have these online forums. But one thing that I think it's very important when we are starting with this LCIA approach is to understand that there are a lot of open source, and that LCIA can count on open science methodology, open science proposal. So related to information infrastructure, you can use a bunch of softwares like OpenLCA, Soda for LCA, Lavoisier. You can access GLAD, the Global LCA Data Access Network, to share your data or to download data from others. And this is one thing. And the other thing is that if we work as a network, we can count on other support, and this is very important. And as this topic is, we work with this topic with a lot of passion. Everyone that works with this sustainable and the environment subject has this passion inside, and so people are aiming to support and to help. And when Małgorzata finished her speech, she said about we have the science aspect and the economy aspect and social aspect, and of course, but science can support all these aspects because there's no social without science, there's no economy without science, and there's no environment without science. So what we have to understand is that we have this open science, and you can use it to improve our social aspects, our environmental aspects, and also our economic aspects.
Thank you, Tiago. I concur with you 100%. The science is really like beacon and the foundation of everything we do, and should be, but also can work as sort of a torch, you know, the guiding lighthouse for where we need to go as well, isn't it? Great, Tiago. Thank you very much for your insightful intervention. And stay tuned because we will be coming back to you for the closing remark. Sorry about that. Now we are moving on to the next speaker. We have again a speaker from another important sector for this topic of accelerating great transition. He is James Joyce. He's a sustainability science leader at the Unilever. And I think there are very few people who don't know what is a Unilever, because we are, I think, many of a customer or consumer of the great product being produced by Unilever. And he is representing business sector and will be able to share with us his broad range experience on a corporate sustainability issue, including supply chain risk, resource efficiency, and carbon reduction. So please help me welcome Mr. James Joyce. Over to you, James.
Thank you, Kakuko. And yeah, good morning, everybody. So yeah, as Kakuko says, I'm from Unilever, and at Unilever, we're very proud to be global leaders in sustainable business. And this is underpinned by our ability to understand and assess the environmental impacts of the products that we make, the portfolios of products, and the strategies that we have going into the future. And this is all underpinned and based on life cycle assessment. Now, this allows us to put sustainability right at the core of our business strategy. And we truly believe that sustainable business is good business. And we have a single strategy that combines our business and our sustainability, we call our compass strategy, to really drive that belief through the organization and achieve our purpose, which is to make sustainable living commonplace. Now, in terms of accelerating sustainable production and consumption, business is absolutely vital for this because business is where the action happens. So to extend Kakuko's metaphor of the car, we're the people with our feet on the pedals, and we can really drive that acceleration when it comes to this really, really important topic. Now, for a company like Unilever, with 3.4 billion consumers using our products around the world every single day, we have a fantastic opportunity and also a fantastic responsibility to really drive that acceleration. And that's through things that Małgorzata has already mentioned around eco-design, around engaging with our value chains, but also about empowering our consumers to make those sustainable consumption decisions. And as Sheila said in her opening remarks, LCIA is the science of this. LCIA provides us with the ability to enact science-based decision-making and go from a situation where we think we're doing the right thing, or we're saying we're doing the right thing, to where we know we're doing the right thing and we can demonstrate that we're doing the right thing. And that's why it's really great to be here today on behalf of representing business and representing Unilever in this really important forum.
Excellent, James. Thank you for the introductory remark. There is one part of your statement that really, to me, it's like, okay, takeaway message is that you said at some point that the sustainability is a good business. I really believe in that. And in fact, I tell whenever I have a dialogue with the company private sector entity who are thinking about, doing more for sustainability, my elevator pitch always is that, yes, like yours, sustainability is a good business and also risk hedge for your company. If you're not in it now, basically you are risking more for your company. And I think anyone working for the private sector, you don't want to see your company disappearing in the next year or next 10 years. As a business sector, the important thing is that you continue to exist as a company, serving people through the product and services. Okay, so with that, now I want to hear, as a front runner of this sustainability business in Unilever, company like Unilever, over the years there must be some key lessons learned, to help Unilever arrive at the conclusion that indeed investing in sustainability is a good business and good risk hedge measures. Can you share a little bit more about the lesson learned? I'm pretty sure you didn't come to that conclusion in day one of Unilever starting to invest in sustainability. I'm pretty sure there were some little mistakes or adjustment in the trajectory or strategy. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So Unilever really has a long-standing commitment to the science sustainability. And so we have a global center of excellence in the LCIA function and the sustainability science function that sits within what we call our Safety and Environmental Assurance Center, or SCP-HAT. This is part of R&D and it's part of our safety and environment and regulatory sciences capability. And this sits outside of our products and brands, which gives us the opportunity to apply LCIA for that high business impact across all of the products and all of the brands. So we're not focused on one particular area. We have that broad view across the entire portfolio, and we can make those connections between different parts of the business and potentially different business silos to make sure that we're ensuring that consistent and credible application of our science, which is a really important learning to have. It's not something that you can do in isolation. It's something that we really need to spread as far as we can across the business. Now, one other key learning that we've had over the years is the flexibility of LCA as a concept is one of its absolute strengths. So it's not just about doing LCAs, it's about using lifecycle assessment and related approaches, lifecycle thinking, carbon footprinting, all of these various sort of guises of LCA to really support that science-based decision making, and that's at multiple levels. So that can be from product and material and system innovation. It can be portfolio analysis to support business strategy, for corporate reporting, then also for customer and consumer communication as well. So that flexibility really is a great learning to take, and that means that we can support those enduring efforts to contribute to all of those different areas where we can take real action. So we can set science-based sustainability targets. We can evaluate our pathways to net zero for our product portfolios. We can choose between innovation options and feedstock sources. We can work with our value chains, with our suppliers, with our farmers, with everyone along that huge, long and extensive value chain to really improve practices. And so being able to base that on science and having the flexibility to use that in all those different ways, in all those different situations, has been a really key learning for us over the years. And it's really expanded the remit of the team over time. But another key learning is that we can't just be customers of LCA. We can't just take LCA as it is and say that is fine. We really need to continue our effort to contribute to the ongoing development of LCA as a science. And so at Unilever, what we have is a network of external partners, as well as the core team that sits within Unilever, to really push the boundaries and make sure that the science that we are using to support all of the action that we're taking is really credible and fit for purpose. And this will continue into the future as well. Things like ensuring that all the environmental impact categories are dealt with in an equally robust way, developing prospective and spatially resolved approaches for LCA. That's a really exciting area that we're looking at, taking into account things like absolute sustainability and planetary boundaries as a concept. All of these really vital things can really help. And then on the other side, we've got things like data, things that Tiago's mentioned. We really need to understand how we can get really good data for our LCAs, how we can fill gaps with the opportunities afforded by new digital and computational approaches. And then how do we express that to our consumers? How do we translate that in a credible, evidence-based way to the people that we're ultimately serving, which are the billions of people all the way around the world that are using our hopefully vastly more sustainable products going into the future.
Excellent, James. Yeah, the last part that you talked about, because company like Unilever investing so much, saying that you have done so much on the sustainability, and that has become important sort of pillar of how you are continue to shape your business. Because of the information you share or the strategy you share, I'm pretty sure you're getting more and more demand from your customer wanting to sort of stay in tune with what you are doing and want to hear more about, particularly in the era of facilitating transparency of information. The consumer information is extremely important. Can you say just quickly how you are dealing as a Unilever to this increasing demand from your customers wanting to know more?
Absolutely. So yeah, if we want to really drive systemic change, really push the accelerator on that consumption part, then information is going to be key to that. But it needs to be credible, it needs to be understandable, which are two separate aspects to it. Now you're right. We've observed an increase in consumer interest in wanting to understand the environmental impact of the products that they use. And really that's about driving sustainable choices. They want to be able to make those choices in the moment. And so what we need to have is a meaningful way to communicate that information to consumers that's understandable for them, while maintaining that scientific integrity of the information. And for a company like Unilever and business in general, we need to be able to do this at scale. Unilever's portfolio is tens of thousands of products in hundreds of different countries. We need to be able to really scale up the way that we do this. Now, this is a big challenge, and we're involved in several different initiatives in this space. So there's a colleague of mine in our team, and she's conducting a PhD at the University of Surrey, looking at environmental rating eco-labels. So she's developed and she's published a framework, which is really excellent. I recommend looking it up, outlining key principles for those credible, evidence-based eco-labeling type schemes. And it's broadly applicable across sectors, and it's focused on the key methodological choices and the key elements across all the way from assessing the product in terms of life cycle assessment through to how we ensure trust and transparency and credibility and meaningful communication of those results. And at the moment she's extending that research into looking at the methodological choices associated with translating LCA results into ratings and scores to help consumers in a snapshot, in a moment, understand what's going on there. And then in terms of the application side of it, back in 2021, we became a founding member of something called the Eco Beauty Score Consortium, which now has over 70 member companies. And the objective there in this particular sector, in the cosmetic sector, is to develop a common environmental impact scoring system to help consumers make those more informed purchasing decisions. Now, this is a really interesting example for many reasons, but one of the key aspects of this is there's several different work streams all working in tandem here. So there's a work stream aimed at developing an agreed LCA methodology, so very much on the science to methodological side, making sure that people are doing things in the same way. But that is running in parallel to other work streams around coming up with a credible way to turn those outputs into meaningful consumer information, to develop the digital tools, the scalability of that, so we can implement this time of scheme at scale, and also maintaining that communication with the key external stakeholders. So people like the European Commission, people like the scientific community, to make sure that it is credible what we're developing here, and that is really exciting, because it means that LCA experts are now working as part of a much wider, multifunctional, multi-organizational team, so that we can really leverage the approach and the science into that scalable, impactful application. And here, collaboration is absolutely key. It's all about bringing people together from different domains to really leverage their domain expertise. So LCA, consumer insight, data and systems specialists, but also to gain consensus among the member organizations. And there's really really nice parallels with the Lifecycle Initiative there, in that this is a forum to bring together and collaborate and to achieve that collaborative consensus in order to really drive all of these really, really important aspects of LCA forward in the future.
Sounds excellent, and it's really wraps things up for this session. You know what, all the information James was sharing. Hopefully that information and the network is already part of the global LCA data access network, GLAD, but if it's not, please make sure that they are, because I'm pretty sure many of the audience would love to know more about those initiatives, including that research, PhD research by your colleague in the Surrey University in UK. So, well, you know, anything good, the time passed very quickly, right? Passed very quickly. Well, we are coming to the end of this session, but I cannot close before giving like 30 seconds each of the two other presenters, and also James for the last 30-second, 15-second pitch. What is your final message to the audience today? So let me first go with Małgorzata. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for very interesting interventions from other panelists. My key takeaways from these exchanges are that the LCA methods are super important, very important to underpin our decisions, but they require constant improvements. That's where the scientific progress is important, and that's where we need to engage constantly to ensure that. And the second part is making it more accessible. So that, again, gets back to the comments made by Tiago. Making it more accessible to all is also fundamental to ensure that we can use the LCA methods more widely. And I think that brings me to the end of my 30 seconds, so I don't want to abuse the time.
Thank you, Małgorzata. Perfect. Okay, then over to you, Tiago.
Thank you, Kakuko, for hosting this panel. It was great to share it with you. I have to highlight that we believe that open science can support this process of sustainable consumption and production, and that we are at IBICT committed to developing free tools to support this process based on the best science we have nowadays. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you, Tiago, and thank you once more to you, particularly because of time difference. You must have woken up very early in the morning to be with us online today. Thank you. So lastly, not but least, James, before you start, I hear that, or I see there are a few questions directed to you. So maybe after this session, if you still have a few minutes to spare, it would be great if you can look at the chat box of this session and answer a few questions. But then over to you now for your closing remarks.
Absolutely, thank you, Kakuko, and yeah, thank you for the questions. I'll come to those in the chat box. So yeah, for me, I mean, LCA is absolutely fundamental to sustainability. It is the science of sustainability. It is the way that we can really underpin the changes that we need to make with credible and actionable science. So this is an incredibly important community, an incredibly important initiative for doing that. And so, yeah, it's consensus, collaboration, and science based on LCA is the way that we're really going to be able to push the accelerator on that switch to more sustainable consumption and production. So, yeah, thank you.
Excellent, James. So, colleagues and audience, thank you very much for connecting and staying throughout the session 1 of the 7th General Assembly of Life Cycle Initiative. I hope that the passion that the 3 speakers and also myself have conveyed to the importance of sustainability and life cycle approach and analysis have been infectious to you. So with that, thank you once again to all the speakers. Back to you, Archana.
Many thanks, Kakuko, and to all our panelists for this very enlightening and super engaging discussion. I personally enjoyed it a lot. Without further ado, we are now moving into the 3rd session of the day, where we have an opportunity to provide our members the connect. We give an opportunity for our members to connect, exchange ideas, deepen their understanding of life cycle initiatives, impactful projects, and collaborations. And for this session, I would like to invite Sonia, Valdivia, and Alessandra, our outgoing steering committee members of the Life Cycle Initiative. Sonia is also a scientific director at the World Resources Forum, where she is working in the areas of sustainable recycling industries and life cycle sustainability. Alessandra is currently the managing director of Eco in Venue Zone, where she's actively participating and coordinating the scientific working groups and editorial boards for primary scientific journals, especially in matters related to LCA. Over to you, Sonia and Alessandra.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Archana, and also for the very interesting part one session of today. It was really inspiring. So now we would like to get a bit more into the interaction with you directly. And before going into the topics that will come in the next part, and at the end, where there is more to show today, it's important to see the composition, to understand a bit more from where you're coming from. And we prepare some slides to guide you and express yourselves on a few questions. So please start preparing your computers, your mobiles, and interacting with Slido is the option we chose. You please follow us with this tool, and the first question we would like to raise is about your constituencies. Do you know, I'm sure you have signed for one of these. Please indicate through the Slido, you have the number there, so that you can log in for this question and express the constituency you belong to. There are 4 options: government, business, science and civil society organizations, and individual members. We know that the first question always takes a little bit of time because you start connecting to this tool. So we wait a little bit. One remark is that because I have had the experience and the honor to have witnessed the evolution of the Life Cycle Initiative, and can say that at the very beginning, this was more an initiative with a huge membership from the academia and individual members, and less from governments and businesses. What is really impressive and very positive to see is that businesses, as you see from the indicators, are gaining momentum, are really interested in contributing, governments, of course, as well. And this is the evolution that you can see through this indicator that now is in front of you. Well, we may move to the next question. This is more or less a picture, it's a snapshot. It's not the final, but it gives you a good idea on where we're coming from. Thank you. Let's go to the next question. Please, also because gender aspects is important in UNEP, in our organizations, and more we are paying attention to these issues and equity, equality around the world. So that is also important to understand from the membership and participation. That should be quicker, perhaps, as the first question. So we have more or less, we are getting into the balance. Earlier, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, perhaps it was a bit more imbalanced. So now we are getting closer to that. This is also a very good indicator and progress. Very good. So please, now let's go to the next question. And this is perhaps, you will take a bit more of time. This is about understanding in a scale from 1 to 10, how much value do you see the Life Cycle Initiative has added to your operations and sustainability efforts, independently on where you're coming from? So we mean with this that 1 is the least impact or value, and 10 is the most and the best, we could say. So we are heading towards a range between let's say 7, 8 more prominently, which is good, actually relatively good, very good, depending, of course, on your context. And there are some that also pointed out to 10, which means a lot of value. This is super positive. We have 44 votes. Perhaps if we have, as I counted, 100 participants, a few more could vote. This is becoming very interesting and relevant for the Life Cycle Initiative. That would be okay. Maybe we're stopping also here. This is a good number already. Thank you. And now moving to the next one. And there you would take a bit more of time. And I think with this, we exhaust the 10 minutes slot that we have for this interactive part. And this is about you expressing with examples, with quick experiences, I mean, quick text that you could write in the chat, not in the chat, in the Slido, because there is an option for that, about your experience within sustainability based on life cycle thinking. Benefits, highlight of what you could report based on your work experience. Just write free what you think. Learning, outreach, a network. What about, very good, what about reducing the environmental impacts perhaps in a specific sector? Or increasing transparency when communicating results? Thank you. So there is a lot. It seems really that the Life Cycle Initiative is having a huge impact on contributing to networking, exchanging, sharing, building knowledge, reaching consensus, exchanging, data exchange, interoperability is also mentioned. I think this is very, very enlightening. A lot of research has been supported also through the documents, the background information and reports that have been developed within the Life Cycle Initiative. Social LCIA is mentioned a couple of times. So I think you will find this very also helpful, very useful. And with this, I think we covered the main questions to understand, to get to know each other. And with this, I would like to hand over this session, this part, to Alessandra. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, as I would say last year as a member of the steering committee of the Life Cycle Initiative in the business constituency. It's a great pleasure. It has been a very inspiring journey for me, and I'm very glad to be here with you today. And we will start now a session in which we will guide you through the latest update on some of the projects that have been run under the Life Cycle Initiative. So as was mentioned at the beginning by previous speakers, there are many projects currently ongoing covering different key and emerging topics. Today, we will give you an overview of what is happening in the field of impact assessment, data, sustainable production and consumption, and biogenic carbon. I will invite our speakers, starting from Olivier Jolliet, I think everybody knows Olivier. Olivier is a professor in the life cycle impact and risk modeling at the Department of Environmental Health Science and the School of Public Health, University of Michigan. Olivier has been one of the pioneers in the LCIA field and since the early 90s, and is also one of the two co-initiators of the UNEP life cycle initiatives. Olivier, the floor is yours. I just remember all the speakers that you have 7 minutes for your presentation. And then I invite all participants to the General Assembly to pose your questions in the chat, because we will have time later for taking your questions and provide some feedbacks. Olivier, the floor is yours. I don't, there might be some issue with the microphone, maybe. Olivier, I can't hear you.
It should work now.
Oh, okay. So thanks for unmuting me. Can you see me or? Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Let's go, because I have a course in 15 minutes with 230 students and 55 industrial case study on LCA. So it's exciting to see the interest now of students here in Denmark. It's just great. Okay, so let's speak of GLAM and the Global LCA Guidance. Exciting project, because when we created the Lifecycle Initiative in 1999 in the office of this UNEP in Paris, we had that in mind, and we are 24 years or 4 years later, and we're nearly there. Next year, that will be 25 years. So you need a generation to produce a UNEP-based life cycle practices and method. So let's go next slide. So our goal is to create a global LCI method, and we've been working the last nearly 10 years on that intensively, but the last 3 years on this consistent method. And we had in May 11 half-day virtual consensus workshop with about 200 scientists joining from all around the world, discussing each of these 11 topics in detail and basically providing evaluation of what has been done and recommendation. And that was an input, next slide, to an in-person consensus workshop. And you had 37 scientists. You have the list and the photo of them here, or 36 participants, but one was robbed in the train coming from Switzerland. We had the meeting in Copenhagen from 30th of May to 2nd of June, in fact, 2 days, full meeting, where we analyzed the results from the virtual workshop and made recommendation. Next slide. In terms of the agenda, we had first the presentation of the different impact categories. Some of the experts were bringing new eyes. They were not involved, or perhaps half of the participants were not directly involved in the work, so which was really interesting to get this feedback. And then we went by breakout group session to address, in fact, a series of questions and the open point which had been identified in the virtual workshop. And we reconvened then to provide, I would say, recommendation for the finalization of GLAM, and also brainstorming about different possible future development of the stewardship of GLAM for the long term in that case. Next slide. If we look at the recommendation, I would say that the method and the work was well received as an impressive companion of work. But then it's interesting, for me, a good workshop is a workshop where it doesn't finish exactly where I think it would. And this means that the participant could have their saying and doing that. So we say we want, in fact, to reconvene through a virtual meeting in basically March next year, 2024, after full publication and implementation, to have a final check on results. We plan to test the method in multiple sector and products where we will run, in fact, probably the PEF, different case studies in collaboration with JRC, with product, but also with inventory from all around the world, and test and have a workshop where we have sectors from the industry, participants from industry, from government, interested in product. That could be, for example, one on transportation, one on cleaning product or chemical-based product, one on food, for example, and have, I mean, we look together at the results of what has been run, and we receive comment. And here, in parallel, we'll have a broad stakeholder consultation. We want a comprehensive method. We had excluded some category just because of time or data availability. And we were told, no, we want to have, for example, ozone depletion included, and we'll use existing method for that. These are methods, we didn't made a special work on that, but we will take the best available method here. And the ambition is to include uncertainty for all categories, to be, in a sense, the first LCIA method, which will have uncertainty. It will be first order of magnitude, but it will be interesting. Next slide. One very impressive work made by, in particular, Marco Cinelli and Cecilia at Norsus, was about arriving to worldwide weight, and also in collaboration with our Japanese colleague and Nohiro Itsugo team. And basically to weight the different human health, ecosystem quality resources you have at the bottom. And this is an impressive work based on more than 3,000, in fact, survey, some in person, some online there, and which give relatively, I would say, stable factors here in that case. Next slide. So final next step, we had a recommendation what should be now finalized for each big domain. On human health, like fine particulate, we need a final comparison, and we are just carrying it just now. We got just the results. Update of few stocks, chemical properties. I'll let you read, in a sense. This ecosystem quality, a final implementation of the GEP, which are looking at the vulnerability at world level, and different improvement from what was brought here to ensure also consistency with human health. Ecosystem services, a final reporting. There were also questions raised on the ecosystem services, which need to be addressed before they can be integrated in the method. And finally, normalization and weighting, test of representativeness. And Martin Dorber is especially leading now the implementation to bring everything consistently in that case. Next slide. So thanks to the Lifecycle Initiative for the outstanding support across the years, especially to Archana, who supported us here. Thanks to the sponsor, particularly the Swiss government, who's been really supporting this GLAM work in the last 10 years, and all the workshop participants for their improvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olivier, also for keeping time as suggested. And there is time for one question from the audience. So if you can just write the question in the chat. If known in the meantime, I have a question for Olivier, given this very impressive work that has been done. I was wondering, how do you see the feasibility and possibility to extend this type of work also to, in terms of thinking in particular to the weighting part, also to a more broad sustainability type of assessment? Is it something that we require quite a consensus? You
mean like a social LCA hotspot?
Yes.
I think extending first to the economic LCA will be relatively easy. I mean, it's doing a life cycle costing on that in parallel is relatively straightforward. I think a hotspot LCA would be interesting to test, I think, at this stage. Arriving to full recommendation at this level, it's not my domain, so we should ask Greg or Norris or Benoit, Catherine Benoit Norris about that. But I think it would be interesting to grow that. And I have 1 or 2 projects on Link where we try to integrate to test that. But I don't think we are yet there for a consensus, I mean, final or at this level here.
Thank you. It will be quite challenging, but looking forward to see the practical implementation of what has been developed within the GLAM, because it will be very helpful for consensus and harmonization within the community. Thank you so much.
The plan is to get it out on at CTAC next year, 2024 CTAC Europe in May next year. That's our timetable.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you. And if there are additional questions later on, please just type again write in the chat, because we can forward them to Olivier also later and be back at you. Thank you again, Olivier.
Bye-bye.
And yeah, I think we can move to the next speaker. And I will leave Sonia introduce this update.
Hello, everybody again, and it's my pleasure to introduce to Mona Mohammed. She's Program Management Officer of the Lifecycle Initiative. You may have known her, and she's specialized in building and mining and construction, and works on increasing access to LCIA data, lifecycle knowledge, and she's also closely supervising the work of the Sustainable Consumption and Production Hotspots analysis tool that she will present, as well as progress and updates. Please, if questions, perhaps in order to save a bit of time, you can still already write them in the chat. And if she's quick with the presentation, we can have time for discussion. Thank you. Mona, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sonia. And thanks for the opportunity to talk about the SCP-HAT today. So the Sustainable Consumption and Production Hotspot Analysis Tool is one of the main tools of the Lifecycle Initiative, which was developed in collaboration with the One Planet Network, as well as the International Resources Panel. And we've developed this tool with the University of Vienna and CISRO. So I see also Marvin has put in the chat the link to this tool in case you want to check it out as we are going through the presentation. But in essence, this is an online application that has data from over 164 countries, showing environmental and socioeconomic performance over the last 25 years. And what we can see there is we look at the input-output data from different economic data from different countries, and then we map environmental impacts onto that. So with that, we're able to identify hotspots in these supply chains and in the consumption and production practices of different countries. And it's one of a kind because it's providing science-based analysis of high impact areas and sectors within these economies. And we're able to provide data for countries that already submit this data into different international platforms. But we're also able to use this data to extrapolate for other countries that might not have this data accessible to them. So I'll just give you a really quick tour of the two modules that we currently have, or the interface, before delving more into how this has been used and what are the different newest updates we've had in the last year. So on the different modules that we have two modules. One focuses on country profiles and the other focuses more at a sector level and identifying hotspots at the sector level. So the country profile module presents the country's environmental performance. And on the next slide, you will see that we are doing this and looking at multiple different indicators such as raw material use, energy use, water use and scarcity, as well as others that you will see here. And maybe building back to Alessandra's conversation as a question as well, there is also some socioeconomic indicators that we include within SCP-HAT. And as we are looking at the different sectors, we are able to pull this information for all the different sectors that are available on SCP-HAT. So on the next slide, you will see one of the major adoptions of SCP-HAT. It's been used previously for NDC's developments, nationally determined contributions, development by different countries, for example, South Sudan, as well as for the development of sustainable consumption and production policies by different countries, such as, for example, Argentina. But most recently this year, and the SCP-HAT has now been featured as the key tool in a toolbox that's being prepared by UNEP, UNDP, and UNFCCC. So this toolbox aims to raise the ambition of the NDCs and to build circularity into it. And we are continuing to train different countries on the use of the tool in this context. The tool was also, SCP-HAT was also featured in a previous iteration of this report, or of this toolbox a few years back, which again led to a higher adoption of the SCP-HAT. And just to give you a little snapshot of the tool, or the toolbox, it consists of 4 different parts. It consists of 4 different stages on how to leverage the policy cycle, which starts with the problem assessment. And there we're really looking at the material flow and GHG emissions. And this is where SCP-HAT tool is being most used. And then from there, many questions arise on what policy response is needed and how can we use and adopt a circular economy intervention in this response. And then it goes into policy implementation as well as evaluation. And it's an iterative process, so we're able to track, or this is a full circle. And it goes back into, again, looking at what's the material use and the different GHG emissions, as these are some of the indicators that are mentioned in SCP-HAT. So on the next slide, you will see that as part of the development of this or this collaboration with the NDC's toolbox, we've established a new feature in SCP-HAT that's called the user journey. And the idea of the user journey in SCP-HAT is that it makes it easier for people who are using SCP-HAT to navigate the different parts. So we've chosen 3 different journeys to focus on. Of course, one was on the NDC development, but we've also chosen 2 others, such as the focus on raw material use and the analyzing the mining sector. So from there, if you click once on the SCP-HAT for NDC development, you will get 2 questions. And if you continue clicking, then eventually you will get to, this is where you can find this information. So, and this is basically based on a decision tree that takes you through all the different information that you're able to get using SCP-HAT with regards to these specific journeys. SCP-HAT, of course, provides more information than just how, or has more uses than just how to be used for NDC development or how to track the mining sector and the supply chains for the mining sectors. It's also has other uses, and there, we continue to develop different user journeys so that we're able to build on that. So another feature we also developed this year includes the data download feature for SCP-HAT. We've received quite a lot of requests from our partners and from people that we are hearing about for the first time who are using the SCP-HAT data and are requesting to be able to download the data. Previously, there was an option to download the data for every module separately, so for every figure separately, but now we've moved to a more encompassing download option where you can download the national data, the trade data, or the sectoral data, looking at the different environmental indicators that you would be interested in. You could download the entire data set by looking at the world, or you could look at different countries. And again, you can also specify the timeline that you're looking at and the perspective. And maybe one thing I haven't mentioned already, but SCP-HAT touches on both a domestic production perspective as well as a consumption footprint perspective, allowing countries to track not only emissions within their countries, but also emissions in other countries because of consumption in their respective countries. And we also present all of this information as part of the standard reports, which are a really great starting point for users of SCP-HAT, where you're able to see all the different data sets, as well as an explanation of what you should be looking at as you're looking at the different figures. So we continue this collaboration with the One Planet Network, especially as we continue to support and train different science partners for different regions. And I'm putting here the information of the different science partners, as we usually encourage different members from the different regions to interact with the science partners who've been trained on the life cycle, on the SCP-HAT tool in different occasions, and are capable of taking the countries on this journey of how to use the SCP-HAT and what would be the best way to use it and extract the information for use by the different countries as well as different partners. And we continue to do these trainings from the Life Cycle Initiative in different occasions. Most recently, we've had a training at the sideline of the International Resource Panel meeting in Bangkok, which was focused on the Asia Pacific region, where we had multiple presence from different governments, different UN country teams. And the tool continues to be in demand from the different partners. So I will leave it here, and I'm happy to receive any questions. I didn't see anything pop in the chat, but I was also busy presenting. But feel free to jump in and let me know.
Thank you very much, Mona. And there is no question in the chat. I have one. And I think, if I'm not wrong, we are a bit over the time. So the main question is about the data validity, or the what is the data updates process? I mean, until when do you have the data, and how do you govern? I mean, what's the governance of the data?
And that's a really good question. There's a strategic conversation right now within UNEP. The underlying data for SCP-HAT is from the from the MFA, Materials Flow and Database, that the IRP is managing, as well as the Gloria database, which includes the MFA plus other databases. And currently the Gloria database is undergoing an update, so it will have new data until 2022. Once that update in Gloria database is completed, the SCP-HAT will also be updated to mirror that update. We are having a strategic discussion within UNEP on how to host this data, because right now we count on our partners to host this data and continue to develop it, and they've been doing a great job, and we are looking to continue that support with them.
Thanks. And if there are questions, please, additional questions, write in the chat. And I think with this, for the sake of following the agenda structure, I would invite Alessandra to continue, please, with the next presentations. Thank you. Thank you, Mona.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank
you, Mona. Indeed, very, very interesting overview. I think that more questions will come during the next minutes of this meeting. I invite now Carolina Scarinci to talk about and to update us about another project related to data, in particular to the GLAM project, Global LCIA Data Access Network. And Carolina Scarinci is currently working as an independent consultant on sustainability issue in Chile, and she has been working on several projects related to circular economy, sustainability strategies, water, and also she led public policy projects focused on territorial development at national, regional, and communal levels. Carolina, I leave the floor to you. Every member has 7 minutes for the presentation, and I invite all again to start thinking already potential questions for Carolina in the chat. Thank you.
Alessandra, can you hear me well? So today I will be presenting the achievements that we've been doing in GLAM as part of the, as a representative of the technical management group of GLAM. Next slide, please. So as you know, GLAM is an open source online platform for searching inventory data. The QR that you see on the screen, if you scan that, will be redirected to the site, and you can have a look at it while I speak. I won't be long in this introduction because you already know GLAM, but it's important to say that GLAM is currently the largest directory of LCIA data from all around the world. It's not a database in itself, but it brings together data sets from different data providers. GLAM serves data users and data providers in many different ways. And of course, it is a great meeting point for all the LCIA community to discuss important issues such as data availability and interoperability. Next slide, please. Today, we have 24 data providers connected in GLAM. Some of the logos can be seen there at the back. These data providers provide over 97,000 LCA datasets and cover over 16,000 products and services. Next slide. That represent all these different locations around the world. Next slide, please. So in the last 2 years, a huge progress has been made in GLAM. GLAM was officially launched in 2020. So we've been working hard, and now the platform is easier to use. Data can be found easier, and we are moving forward towards interoperability. This work is being done mainly by 2 working groups. We have the nomenclature working group and the metadata descriptor working group. And of course, all the work is directed by the technical management group, everything under the umbrella of the LCIA initiative. So some of the recent achievements you can see there. The platform was migrated into Drupal, and this allows better content management. Also, the user interface was updated, and now the way in which we can search for data is easier. We have the possibility of doing faceted search, so this is applying several simultaneous filters, criteria to filter for data, and in that way, searching is easier. Also, an automatic classification for categories. So as many different data providers use different classification systems, what we've done was try to match the categories that these data providers use into a standardized system, that is the IBICT that we chose. From the data provider side, what we did was a registration facility so that they can manage their data in an easier way. Before they needed to contact the administrator to make some modification to the data that was already there, and now they can do it by themselves. A new guidance for metadata was developed, and this now highlights the minimum requirement that need to be matched in order to connect to GLAM. And of course, we advance in promoting GLAM in every way. We developed a communication strategy, and we made sure that GLAM was present in all the major conferences of LCA around the world. Next slide, please. What we are doing now, these are some of the highlights that we wanted to share with you. So, as you may know, some of the main interoperability issues have to do with data format. So GLAM already has a converter function that supports conversion from and to all formats with acceptable results. And what we are doing now is working together with IBICT. IBICT has developed a converter, that's the Lavoisier converter. IBICT is the Brazilian Institute of Information for Science and Technology. And what we are doing is integrating this Lavoisier converter into GLAD. And the advantage is that this converter will make the conversion between ECOSPOL2 and ILCD much better than before. This tool will be available in GLAD as an add. Another issue with interoperability is, of course, the nomenclature of elementary flow. And here, this working group has developed a mapping file, so a criteria process, an open and transparent process to map different nomenclature systems. The systems that were mapped initially were Econvent, Environmental Footprint, IDEA, and the US Federal LCIA Canals. The work of this working group was also hand in hand with the GLAM initiative, because it is related. And the outcomes of this work, apart from having this mapping, the results were that we discovered that we do need a common nomenclature governance system, and this is required to maintain the flow list, to maintain the mapping criteria, and to expand this mapping to other nomenclature systems. So what we are doing now is it's an important phase of trying to design a blueprint and a sustainability strategy for this common nomenclature governance system. And here IBICT is leading an expert consultation, not only with the members of GLAD and GLAM, but also with major software providers, database and method developers, and the LCIA community in general, LCIA practitioners, experts from all regions, in order to gain insights on how to design this system, this governance. So please, if you are interested in contributing to this area, we would like we would like to hear from you, and you can be added to this list of stakeholders that we will be interviewing. Number 3 there, a new feature that's being developed is what we call the GLAD Open Scientific Node. And this is a feature that allows university departments and research groups to upload and share structured LCI data generated in their scientific research. So we will have a node in GLAD that will bring together data sets from different universities, and users will be able to access this information, of course, knowing all the metadata and scripture related to that data. And here we call upon academic institutions who are interested in having their data connected to reach out for this beta trial, and we can incorporate it here. And finally, we are working on the integration of GLAD into LCA software. We are starting with Brightway, and soon we will begin research to demonstrate how a tool integration could be add value to users. So now, yes, next slide. Arriving to the end of the presentation, we just want to invite you to be part of this. You can collaborate in different ways. So you can be a user of GLAD, actively use GLAD, and provide feedback on the usability of the platform and how you use that. We are looking for the success stories of developing LCAs using GLAD. You can become a data provider. So if you have data, if you develop data and you want to connect to GLAD, now the process is easier, so please contact us. You can collaborate in kind in one of these working groups that I mentioned before, and in these initiatives that we are doing, this open the consultation for the nomenclature and system and everything. And of course, you can become a founding partner. Next slide, and I'm finished with that. Thank you very much. If you have any question, let me see. I don't see any question at the.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you so much. We don't have questions yet in the chat. I think we need a bit to digest the content of all the presentation, and I'm sure that will come later. As we have seen, there are now coming questions for previous presentation. I have just not a question, but a general comment. As you mentioned, I think that is also the possibility for not only for academia institutions to contribute in terms of data, but also from industry themselves. So are there particular requirements that organization needs to fulfill in order to provide data, or in case, what do they need to do? Because we know that there are many private organizations interested in contributing to the building up of databases.
So all the information is on the website. So there's this on the guidance on how to connect and what information you need to have in order to connect is on the website. At the moment, what can be connected in GLAD is data that is already structured in an LCI form. However, if there's any interest, it can be dealt with individually. But at the moment, as I mentioned, so nodes connect if they have their data structured in an LCA format, and there are some industry organizations that have their data in GLAD. So if you go to GLAD and you filter by data provider, you will see that there are some industrialistic associations that have their data there already. And this new node will be, in a way, so as we don't have individual nodes for each university, we will have this main node that is academic, and all academic institutions will be able to upload their data.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm happy to see that we are moving forward in the interoperability pathway, which we know is quite complicated. And I invite you all to get back at Carolina for further question, or also for getting more information about the possibility of connecting data and contributing to the work. Thanks again, Carolina. I invite the last speaker to talk about a new project under the Lifecycle Initiative, which is the Biogenic Carbon Project. I invite Archana, Datta. You already know her. Archana has also quite a long experience in projects related to sustainable consumption and production, circular economy, SDGs, also in the fashion industry, and clean development mechanism. Archana, the floor is yours. I think that people will be eager to know about this new forthcoming project.
Many thanks, Alessandra, and I'm very pleased to share updates from our recently launched project on biogenic carbon. Moving to the next slide, biogenic carbon, as you may know, it refers to carbon that is sequestered from atmosphere during biomass growth and is usually released back into the atmosphere through combustion, respiration, or decomposition of the biomass. It is present in many production systems and has been depicted as environmentally beneficial. And there has been a consistent demand from the members of the Life Cycle Initiative to support this work. As decision makers, they still lack consistent and stable information about the climate impacts of bio-based products due to the lack of an internationally recommended approach to account for biogenic carbon, for example, the temporary storage. Moving on to the next slide, the project would include an expert-led multi-stakeholder process to provide guidance on how to model biogenic carbon in life cycle assessment studies. And given that this will be anchored by the Life Cycle Initiative, these recommendations would have a global reach and impact. The slide mentions the project scope. The ultimate output from this 2-year project is a succinct and harmonized technical guidance to consider the biogenic carbon in LCA. The key focus will also be on quantifying the climate impacts of biogenic carbon, and to the extent possible, also other relevant impact categories. This is very broadly the scope that has been discussed with the Technical Advisory Committee of the project. On the next slide, we have some updates from the project, which was, as I said, this was launched in June this year. And subsequently, through an open call for applications, we've selected a 15-member technical advisory committee, which has actively engaged in last 3-4 months, coming up with this refined version of the scope. In terms of next step, just yesterday, we've launched a call for proposal to select the implementing partner to support the work, including the development of the guidance and recommendations, and also coordinating the working groups, the consensus building workshop, as well as its subsequent finalization. I don't have a lot of updates from the project, given that we've just launched the project. So on the next slide, if you want to follow and you want to get involved, there is still an opportunity to join the working groups. You can visit the link through the QR code where there is an open call for the working group. There is this call for proposals which is just out. At the same time, I would like to reach out to organization. We are still fundraising for the project. So if you're interested in supporting the project by funding the project, please reach out to me and we can have a discussion on how we can take this forward. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana. Super on time. You recovered also a bit of our delay. Thank you so much. And I invite all the people to get back at you for additional information if they want to join also the working groups. I think that we need quite substantial support for all experts in the field, and also there is opportunity for contributing in many ways. So I invite you all. And with this, well, if there will be more questions in the chat, we will deliver them to all the speakers. But I think that we can move to the next part of our General Assembly with this networking moment.
We will close the General Assembly here. You have our email addresses, you have all the information here. Please feel free to reach out to us if you need any information, any support. If you have any question with relation to the work that Lifecycle Initiative is doing, or in general, anything Lifecycle, if you have any question, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer your question, make the necessary connections if required, and take the discussion forward. It has been a pleasure hosting you today. Thank you so much. Last but not the least, I have a request on the next slide. We are also capturing some testimonials for the work that we are doing at Lifecycle Initiative. If you think you have a good experience and not so good ones also to share with using the key assets of the Lifecycle Initiative, if you've seen some effective use of any of our projects, any of our key assets, we would love to hear from you and use that feedback to improvise and motivate ourselves to continue doing this work. Thank you so much again. Have a nice rest of the day. With this, we are going to close the General Assembly. Thank you.